Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I want to invite us to find our seats, although this is the traditional beginning to a Shabbat service, and that is for everyone to schmooze for a little bit, and then for someone to say, hey, let's get started. In fact, I'll introduce it in just a moment a little bit more in depth, but we often do have as a tradition for those first moments when we walk into this sacred space, not to say what a beautiful sanctuary or building we might be in, but to say Ma Tovu Ohalecha Yaakov, which does mean that the tents of Jacob, but it means the community, the people. It's not when we see the structure that we know that we are with community and in a sacred space. It's when we are with one another. And so I would like to think that schmoozing, offering hugs, being together at a time like this, well, it's an echoing of those words offered so many years ago. And so it is in the same vein that I'd like to welcome everyone who is here, the many beautiful tents of this community. Welcome to this sacred space as we celebrate this holiday of Shabbat. Welcome not only to those who are here joining us in our sanctuary in this particular space, but welcome to everyone who is joining us online as well, those who are on Facebook and YouTube, as well as our live stream on tilb.org. And I mention that for a couple of reasons. One, that live stream specifically for a couple of reasons. One is that it has a slightly higher quality stream on the website. But the other is when we get to the very end of our service and we ask for names and those that we're thinking of for our memorial prayer, if there's anyone that you are thinking of, you can offer their names in the chat on TILB, and we'll be able to say that name out loud. I will be able to share that name. I want to welcome everyone who is here to celebrate not just this day of Shabbat, but this moment in Shai's life. As he takes his first steps as an adult, it is not only a beautiful thing, but it is actually vital to this celebration that we are able to celebrate with one another. And so I welcome friends and family, both who are joining us online from near and far, and here in our sanctuary as well. Welcome also to David York. It is always a pleasure to lead together in this service, to be offering this music, and to be praying together this morning. David, is truly always a pleasure to lead with you. And I want to mention just a little bit of housekeeping. Cantor, you probably are anticipating this joke, that I know that no one would ever think of bringing a cell phone to a sanctuary, to a Shabbat service, would never think of bringing a phone to a moment like this. But if any of us happen to have it, I want to invite us to set it on silent or even to turn it off so that we can have our morning together without that particular distraction. I'm going to turn mine completely off here. And a note as well about photos. There's no need for any of us to take photos this morning. There are professional photographers who are here to capture the moments of this service, and they're going to do so in a way that preserves the sanctity of our service by remaining behind the pews throughout our service this morning. Another note as well about our life cycle room. All of us have different ways that we pray. But if any of us happen to have a little one with us, and I insist on this, it is not so often those in our community, but often the parents that are a little bit mindful of the voice of their little one. They are welcome to be in this space. But if you would prefer, please feel free to join in the life cycle room where you can see and hear everything. But anyone in that room can sing and cry to their heart's delight, and we won't be able to hear them. A note about the health guidelines for the area currently. We are asking that everyone remain masked throughout our service, and that is masked not just over our mouth, but over our nose as well. That is to ensure the safety of everyone who is here to celebrate together today. And I imagine that many of us are saying that is all fine and good, but Rabbi, you and Cantor don't have a mask on right now. We very recently took COVID tests and have tested negative, but as an additional precaution, we've cleared the first 2 rows this morning to ensure everyone's safety. Anyone who is here at the podium this morning and has taken their mask off is someone who has very recently taken a COVID test and, of course, has tested negative. For everyone else, I'd like to invite us to please leave our masks on, even if we have an aliyah, even if we're coming up this morning. A note as well about our prayer book this morning. You'll find in the seat back in front of you a prayer book for our service, and you'll find on the right-hand side of every page the traditional words of the blessings that we're offering. But this prayer book was actually designed with each of our needs in mind, knowing that we have different spiritual needs on any given Saturday morning. And so, if and as our hearts wander, I invite us to let our eyes wander around the page as well. On the right-hand side, again, you'll see the traditional words of the blessing in the English transliteration. Underneath is the English translation. And still further are interpretations of those blessings on the left-hand side of the page and commentary on the bottom as well. An opportunity for each of us to find our own way into prayer. And for some of us, that's going to be following along exactly, word for word in the Hebrew. For others, it's going to be humming along to the melodies. And for still others, it's going to be letting these words and melodies wash over us. For each and every one of us, we will find our own way into prayer, into a holy moment this morning. Well, as we celebrate this day and as we celebrate this moment, I'd like to give us the opportunity to turn to one another with words of welcome. And so we begin our service this morning with the words ma tovu. Again, those words I explained just a moment ago that are an inspiration and a celebration of the community, of the place that we are building together. And we do so by turning to one another and singing these words. Page 74, Ma Tovu.
Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma Tovu, Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma Tovu. Mishkenotecha Yisrael, Mishkenotecha Yisrael, Ma tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma tovu, Ma tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma tovu. Ani berov chaftecha, Avov etecha, Eshtachava el hehal kodshecha, Ve'yiratecha. Ma tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma tovu, Ma tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma tovu.
We have sacred garments that we wear in moments such as this. And to begin the memories of the moments that Shai will be wearing his talit, I'd like to call him up, as well as his grandparents Carol and Stephen Lieber, to present his talit to him this morning.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedushanu v'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatef b'tzitzit.
Amen.
I hereby accept the obligation of fulfilling these mitzvot as commanded in our Torah. You shall be holy, for I, your God, am holy. You shall not render an unjust decision. You leave something of what you possess to the poor. Do not hate your fellow human being. Judge your neighbor fairly. Do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. Do not gossip or spread rumors. Do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Love your neighbor as yourself. I am Adonai, your God. We continue with the Baruch Hu on page 108.
Please rise.
Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai.
Baruch et Adonai Hamevorah.
Adonai, Hamevorach, Hamevorach, Le'olam va'ed. Hamevorach, Hamevorach, Le'olam va'ed.
Please join in on the Hebrew on page 110. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvarei hasheh oseh shalom uvarei et hakol hameir laorot viladirim alecha barachamim utuvo mechaye Bechol Yom Tomid Maaseh Bereshit Ma Rabo Maseh Adonai Kulam Bechovha Secha Mala Haaretz Kinyanecha Tit Barach Adonai Eloheinu Al Shava Maaseh Yadeha Ve'al Moro or Sheseha
Yafarucha Selah.
or
Chadash
Al Siva
Sion Ta'ir Venitzeh Hulanu Nehera Leoro.
Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMe'orot.
As we continue with the English of that same blessing, I'd like to call up Karen and Hugo, Shai's grandparents, to offer this next blessing.
You are praised, who rolls out the rough raw clay of the universe into delicate vessels of light.
And from nothing at all, we could perceive in the world that is turned on, a shimmering new creation right before our eyes, made this moment just for us.
How much of life reveals your presence? How much Torah unfolds from each new flower?
From each new wave that breaks on the sea, you are praised, who forms from the clay that cloaks on our life the delicate vessels which contains our light.
We continue with Ahava Rabbah on page 112. Ahava Rabbah, Ahavtanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hamelech, Gedula, Yiter, Hamalata, Alenu, Be'avur, Avotenu, Ve'imotenu, Shebatu, V'cha, Dame, Pukei, Yei, Came, Chachanenu, Utlandenu.
והארננו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ולא נבוש ולא ניכלם ולא לעולם ועד, והארננו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה את שמך.
We continue with the Shema on page 114. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol lavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'chayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anohi mitzavcha hayom alevavecha vishinantam levanecha v'dibartam bam v'shivteha bebetecha uvlechteha vaderech uvshochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'chayula totafot ben enecha uktavtam al mezuzot betecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru ve'asitem et kol mitzvotai ve'chaytem b'shim le'elohehem ani Adonai Elohehem asher hotzeiti ethum me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiot lehem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohehem
Adonai Elohechem emet.
Please join me on page 122 for the Micha Mocha.
Yai lai lai la lai 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 yai lai lai la lai 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 yai lai la lai lai yai lai 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 yai la lai lai yai lai 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 mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha neder b'kodesh nora tehilot osef eleh nora tehilot osef eleh shira chadasha shibhu geulim v'shimcha fad hayom yachad kulam hodu v'himlichu ve'ameru Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed Adonai imloch le'olam Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai lai. Yai lai 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 lai.
Tzur Yisrael Kuma Be'ezrat Yisrael Ufde Kin Umecha Yehuda Yisrael Go Aleinu Adonai Tzevaot Shemo Kedosh Yisrael Baruch Atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. We continue with the Amidah on page 124. Please rise in body or in spirit. Adonai Sefataitita Ufia Kitilateha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotinu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zoher Hasaramot V'Imahot, Umevi Gehulam Nehem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah. Atagi bor leolam
Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah, Rav lechoshia, Mashiv haruach umorid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umotir asurim, Umekayim emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, Melech memid, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua. V'ne'emanat ha'lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol.
We continue with the Kedusha on page 130. Let us sanctify your name on earth, as it is sanctified in the heavens above, as it is written by your prophet. Holy, holy, holy is Adonai Sevaot. God's presence fills the whole earth.
Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, kishem shemakdeshim oto b'shmei marom, hakatuv ya neviecha, vekara ze el ze ve'amar, kadosh, 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 Adonai Sevaot, melo Adirenu Adonai, Adonenu Madir Shimcha bechol haaretz, Baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo. Echad hu Eloheinu, hu Avinu, hu Malkeinu, hu Moshienu vehu Yashmienu, Berachamav le'enei kol chai, Elohai Zion, Ledor Vador, Hallelujah.
Please be seated.
We are gifts and we are blessings. We are history in song. We are hope and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. Ledor vador nagid god lecha. Ledor vador we protect this chain. From generation to generation, Ledor vador, these lips will praise your name. Looking back on the journey that we carry in our hearts, from the shadow of the mountain to the waters that would part. We are blessed and we are holy. We are children of your way, and the words that bring us meaning we will have the strength to say. Ledor vador nagid god lecha. Ledor vador we protect this chain. From generation to generation, Ledor vador, these lips will praise your name.
Thanks. We continue on page 132. Please join us in singing Vishamru.
Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam, oti leolam, oti leolam. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael
et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam.
Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam.
Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Veshamru
V'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Please turn to page 137 for Ritzeh. Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu ba'amcha Yisrael utfilatam be'ahava tekabel uthi laratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha baruch atah Adonai she'otaha levaha be'yirach na'avod. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to share its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as safeguard of peace, to advocate among the nations. May contentment fall within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of our world. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name sanctify every home and every heart. Praised are you, Adonai, who blesses your people with peace. Atah Adonai, Hamfri, et Yisrael.
Please continue with the words that are either in the Siddur or the words that are in your own heart, and we'll join back together with the words of Sim Shalom on page 140.
Tova uvracha, Chaim chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Sim shalom, 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 tova uvracha, Chaim chen v'chesed v'rachamim.
We now begin the next section of our service, Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for taking out and reading from our sacred text. This part of the service actually was the original part of our Shabbat service. Everything that we have done this morning is to elevate this moment of taking the stories of our community and reading them and drawing greater and greater meaning from them. Of course, this morning, we will hear those very words out of the mouth of our youngest adult of our community, Shai. But I want to give just a note about how this service is going to take place. So, throughout the service, we will call up different members of Shai's circle for the various aliyot, but before we get to that, we're going to be doing a practice known as the hakafot, taking the Torah, and literally it means dancing. Maybe we'll have a little bit of dancing as a part of it. And we'll be offering this Torah out to the community. Now, we are in a different era today than we are often finding ourselves as a community. And given that we are in the middle of what is now an endemic, we are asking that we find perhaps different ways than we might normally to share that love and appreciation for one another and for Shai. So there is more than one way to offer a hug, I think. Rather than offering hugs as Shai and his family go around the community, we want to invite all of us perhaps to offer the words of Mazel Tov, the congratulations for this moment, to share excitement and celebration with Shai and his family. But for obvious reasons, we are asking for everyone not to offer hugs this morning for Shai and his family. We also will take the Torah out around the community, and as is the custom for many of us, I invite us to either take a prayer book or a part of our talit and place it on the Torah, but of course to remain masked and then to kiss the part of our prayer book or talit that has touched the Torah this morning. Well, it is with that honor and the excitement over this part of our service that I'd like to call up Shai and his family to take the Torah, as we take the Torah out of the ark, as we pass it down the generations. And so I'd like to call up Shai and Vanessa and Corey, as well as Karen and Hugo Kitsis. The rest of the congregation I'd like to invite to please rise in body or in spirit.
In kamocha va'elohim Adonai ve'en kema'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim umemshaltecha bechol dor v'ador Adonai melech Adonai melech Adonai imloch le'olam v'ad Adonai os le'amo yitain Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom Av ha'rachamim heitiv avertzonecha et Zion Tivneh chomot Yerushalayim Tivneh chomot Yerushalayim Ki v'cha levad batachnu Melech eram benisa Adon olamim Ki mitzion teitzei Torah Ki mitzion teitzei Torah Udevar Adonai mirushalayim Baruch shenatan Torah Torah Baruch shenatan Torah Torah le'amo Yisrael bikdushato
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemcha.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadlul Adonai iti, unromem Shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula, v'hagevura, v'hatiferet, v'chanetzach, v'hahod. Ki chol b'shamayim uvaretz, ki chol b'shamayim uvaretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha, והמית נעשה לכל ראש. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד.
Please be seated. Yes, I'll call him up. You can stay up here for just a moment. I'll call him up and go ahead and find your spot. Okay. Fight in right there. With your left hand. With your left hand here. Go ahead and take your left hand and put it on the Torah here. And with your right hand, hold that. Left hand. Torah right here.
Oh, okay.
We have a special honor this morning, just as this Torah is placed in the hands of Shai, as it is passed down generation to generation. We are hearing not just the words from Shai, but from the generations of his family. And so not the first aliyah, not the honor of it, but the reading itself is going to be for this very first section of our Torah. This first aliyah will be read by Shai's grandmother this morning, and so we're going to be calling up Carol to be reading, but for the honor of the Aliyah, we call up Shai's brother, very proud brother, very proud? Proud? Sort of proud? Adi, who will be offering the blessing for our first.
Nala Amod, Adi Beit Vered Dechaim, Laliyah HaTorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah. Wait.
It's okay. Asher b'achar banu
Mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai notein ha'Torah.
Amen.
Vayitein et hashulchan be'ohel moed al yerech hamishkan symphona mechutz la parochet vaya'avo alav erech lechem lifnei Adonai ka'asher Tziva Adonai et Moshe Vayasem el hamenorah be'ohel moed nochach hashulchan al yerech hamishkan negbar.
We continue with the English translation of that same reading.
He placed the table in the tent of meeting outside the curtain on the north side of the tabernacle. Upon it, he laid out the setting of bread before the Eternal, as the Eternal had commanded Moses. He placed the lampstand on the tent of meeting opposite the table on the south side of the tabernacle.
We continue with the blessing after the Torah reading.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chaye olam nata b'toheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai notein ha'Torah. For our second aliyah, we call up Karen and Hugo Kitsis, Shai's grandparents.
Hamishpacha l'Aliyah HaTorah.
Baruch Atah Adonai.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Haram.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorah.
Marai.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Atah Adonai. Marai. Baruch Atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech haolam. Baruch Hanu. Kol Amin. V'chanu Torah. Oh, Baruch Atah Adonai, Noshein HaTorah.
Amen.
Vaya'al hanerut lifnei Adonai ka'asher tziva Adonai et Moshe vayasem et mizbach hazachav be'ohel moed lifnei haparochet vayakter alav ketorat samim ka'asher tziva Adonai et Moshe vayasem et masach hazahav et masach hapetach la mishkan. And he lit the lamps before the Eternal, as the Eternal had commanded Moses. He placed the altar of gold in the tent of meeting before the curtain, and on it he burned aromatic incense, as the Eternal had commanded Moses. Then he put up the screen for the entrance of the tabernacle. At the entrance of the tabernacle of the tent of meeting, he placed the altar of burnt offering. On it he offered up the burnt offering and the meal offering, as the Eternal had commanded Moses.
Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher natan לנו האמת, והחיים עולם נתן תורתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
For our third Aliyah, we call up Carol and Stephen Lieber, Shai's grandparents.
נא לעמוד, המשפחה לעלייה התורה.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach. Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ve'it mizbach ha'olah Sam petach mishkan ohel moed vayal alav et ha'olah ve'et haminha ka'asher tziva Adonai et Moshe vayasem et hakior ben ochel moed uvein hamizbeach vayiten shama Vaitain shama mayim leruchtza verachatzu mimenu Moshe ve'acharon uvanav et yadehem ve'et raglehem bevoam el ohel moed uvkorvatam el hamizbach yirchatzu ka'asher Tziva Adonai et Moshe. He placed the laver between the tent of meeting and the altar and put water in it for washing. From it Moses and Aaron and his sons would wash their hands and feet. They washed when they entered the tent of meeting and when they approached the altar, as the Eternal had commanded Moses.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
For our next Aliyah, we call up Shai's very proud parents, Vanessa Kitsis and Corey Lieber.
נא לעמוד, ורד וחיים לעלייה התורה.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Vayakem et hechatzer saviv lamishkan velamizbeach vayiten et masach sha'ar hechatzer vayechal Moshe et hamalacha vayechas he'anan et ohel moed uchvod Adonai maleh et hamishkan Velo yachol Moshe lavod el ohel moed kishahan alav he'anan ufod Adonai maleh et hamishkan. And he set up the enclosure around the tabernacle and the altar, and put up the screen for the gate of the enclosure. When Moses had finished the work, the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the presence of the tabernacle of the Eternal filled the tabernacle. Moses could not enter the tent of meeting because the cloud had settled upon it, and the presence of the Eternal filled the tabernacle.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
For our fifth and final aliyah, we call up Shai himself. By nature of taking on this particular aliyah, he takes his place in our community as a bar mitzvah.
Nala amod, nala amod, nala amod. Habar mitzvah, Shai beit vered v'chaim, la'aliyah haTorah.
Baruch et Adonai, Baruch et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai. No. Wait, Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bahar banu et Torah. Mikol ha'amim. Asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Uvhe'alot he'anan me'al hamishkan yis'u v'nei Yisrael u'becho masehem ve'im lo ye'aleh he'anan ve'al ve'lo yis'u ad yom he'aloto ki anan Adonai al hamishkan yomam v'nesh tihiyeh laila bo le'enei chobed Yisrael bechol masehem hazak hazak v'nitazek
Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek.
hazak hazak v'nitazek.
I'm so excited.
When the cloud lifted from the tabernacle, the Israelites would set out on their various journeys. But if the cloud did not lift, they would not set out until such time as it did lift. For over the tabernacle a cloud of the Eternal rested by day, and fire would appear in it by night, in the view of all the house of Israel throughout their journeys. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei Ulam nata betohenu, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
As we continue our Torah service, we continue with our lifting and dressing of the Torah. I'd like to invite the congregation to please rise.
V'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe, v'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe, lifnei b'nei Yisrael, lifnei b'nei Yisrael. V'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah. V'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah, al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Lai la 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 Lai
Please be seated. We continue now, not just taking the words of the Torah to each of our hearts, but we take other sections of our Bible as well. And so this morning, Shai is going to be reading to us from his Haftorah portion as well.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar binvim tovim v'ratzah v'divrehem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai haboher betorah uv Moshe avdo uv Yisrael amo uvinvieh ha'emet v'tzedek. Vayikahalu el hamelech Shlomo kol ish Yisrael beyerach ha'etanim behag hu hachodesh hashvi. Vayavo kol ziknei Yisrael vayisu hakohanim et ha'aron vaya'alu et Aaron Adonai et Aaron Adonai ve'et ohel moed ve'et kol kelei hakodesh asher ba'ohel vaya'alu ota hakohanim ve'halvim ve'chemelech Shlomo ve'kol adat Yisrael hana adim alav ito lifnei ha'aron mezabhim zon uvakar asher lo yisafru velo yimanu merov. All the men of Israel came together before King Solomon at the festival of Sukkot in the 7th month of Etanim. When all the leaders of Israel had come, the priests took up the ark. The priests and Levites together took up the ark of God and the tent of meeting, and all the holy articles of the tent. Meantime, King Solomon and all the community of Israel with him were sacrificing countless, innumerable sheep and oxen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol alamim tzadik bechol haduro ha'el hane'eman ha'omer ve'oseh hamdaber umkayem shekol devora emet v'tzedek ha'al torah ve'al havodah ve'al hanvim ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'libnucha lechavod utifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umvardim otach yitbarach shimcha v'kolcha tamid leolam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
We're looking for an honors sheet if anybody is wondering about what we're up here looking for. But I want to take just a quick step back. I think there is really one and only one thing to say after reading from our Torah for leading us in such an amazing way, and that is to say Mazel Tov. So I want to invite all of us on the count of three to say to Shai, Mazel Tov. 1, 2, 3, Mazel Tov. Congratulations. Well done, Shai. Just in case anyone is wondering, it is, yes, a foreign language that he just read from. Well, we are going to continue with the returning of our Torah to the Ark, and I want to call up the right people for that particular honor. I've never had this happen. I've led probably over 150 B'nai Mitzvah. I've never lost the honor sheet before. But we have honors that we want to offer to members of your family. I believe it's your cousins to open our ark this morning. And so my apologies. So come on up. My apologies for not calling you up by name, but I'm delighted that you're joining us. And thank you for opening our ark this morning as we return our Torah to the ark. I'd like to invite the rest of our congregation to please rise in body or in spirit.
Eitz Chaim hi l'mochazikim ba v'tomchecha me'ushar derachecha darchei noam v'chol netivotecha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai Eilecha v'nashuva Chadish, Chadish Yameinu Chadish Yameinu
Please be seated. Well, just as we have asked our young and emerging adults to take literally the words of our tradition and bring them to life by sharing them with us, we've also asked them to teach us what can we learn from these words as they change meaning each and every generation, as our lives change around these words. We ask them to draw inspiration from them and tell us how we might live our lives in a more meaningful way from the inspiration that we can find in the text that they shared with us. And so Shai has some words he's going to share with us this morning.
The past 2 years have caused most people to reevaluate the importance of a home. The home has gained significance in many people's lives during the quarantines and intermittent lockdowns of COVID-19. Families are focusing more time and resources into updating and recreating their home into one that is more comfortable and functional for longer periods of recreation, work, and rest. My Torah reading, Parshat Pekudei, takes place almost a year after the Israelites had escaped slavery in Egypt. Moses, Aaron, and the Israelites are encamped near the foot of Mount Sinai. Moses, under God's direction, sets out with the Israelites to construct a portable sanctuary, Mikadesh, called the Tabernacle, as a temporary home not only for themselves, but also for God. When the tabernacle is finally completed, God's presence fills this temporary home and allows him to lead the Israelites to their final home in Israel. For my family, these past few years have also required several changes to our home environment. Our move to Long Beach 2.5 years ago from Irvine marked the beginning of several moves into temporary rentals and Panamanian detention facilities, while we await the completion of a major house remodel. Each of these moves requires us to recreate a space or sanctuary where we can feel at home and gather for meals, entertainment, study, and to welcome guests. But this has been going on for most of my life. Between my birth in San Francisco in 2008, and I moved to Long Beach in 2019, we had already lived in 4 homes in New Mexico and Southern California. Throughout my brief life, these changes and adventures have had a major influence on the person I am today. And as I stand here today leading bar mitzvah services in the presence of many friends and extended family who have traveled long distances and whom I haven't seen for several years, I feel very much at home. Because for me, home isn't just a permanent or temporary physical structure or mikadesh, but more of a place where I can be among my beloved family and friends. I would like to thank Rabbi Fox for teaching me what it means to have a bar mitzvah, Cantor Cooper for teaching me everything I have learned over the past 4 months, Jay Al-Khadef for tutoring me and teaching me all of the melodies, my papa for helping me with everything, my nana for doing a Torah portion and motivating me the whole way through, and my parents for everything. They brought me to the synagogue every Tuesday, and they have been the best parents ever. I can never thank them enough. I would also like to thank everyone else who helped me on this journey.
Shai, first of all, that was beautiful. And I'm going to be holding on to a number of those words. I'll tell you more maybe after the service. Just as you have offered the gift of your leadership, the gift of your teaching, we want to offer some gifts to you this morning. And so I have some gifts to you. From the Temple Israel Men's Club, we have a Kiddush cup. We have, from the Sisterhood, some candlesticks. I want to mention just something quickly about these particular items. I think there's something to ritual objects. I had a Kiddush cup that I used for years. And I didn't really think much of it. It had kind of found its way into the back of my closet, right? That's kind of, sometimes things do that, right? Sometimes even really cool things like CDs, whatever. CDs were these things that you used to listen to music on. Yeah. But when I found that Kiddush cup again, it brought back all of the memories, all the moments that I had with it. Those first times when I brought it out and poured juice or wine as you tasted last night. Those sweet moments, I think they carry themselves in the objects themselves. And so whether you use these Shabbat candlesticks next Friday night, or whether you end up using them in the years to come, either in addition or instead, my hope is that every time you light the lights of these candlesticks, every time you pour sweetness into the cup of this Kiddush cup, that you remember the sweetness of this moment and of everyone who is here celebrating with you today. I have a couple more celebrations, a couple more things to give you. This is a JPS copy, a JPS translation of the Tanakh, of the very words that you shared with us today. My hope is that there will be times where, again, it might be sitting on the shelf and you might pull it off and open it up, find something. It's actually remarkable how many things in our popular culture refer to words that are in these very same texts. Open it up. Find what you can open it now, open it later. Find what inspires you in these words. And actually, along those same lines, we know that it's not just words, but experiences as well that inspire us. And so this is a gift certificate for $250 from the URJ to encourage you and help you if you would like to go on a trip to Israel, either in your teenage years or in high school. And if you want, we have funds. We can help you get there too. There's something profound about going to that birthplace of our community, going to that place that has so much history, where you walk through the streets and then you find out later on that words in this text, this book, describe the very same walkway that you are walking on. When you look around and you see Hebrew on the signs of every storefront, because the entire community is celebrating the same heritage, the same tradition that you celebrate today. I have a couple of my own words that I want to share with you as well, not just these gifts that I get to present you from our temple. But Shai, I don't know if everybody knows this, but Shai wasn't just offering the prayers this morning. He was actually reading the words themselves. I want to point out that that's not terribly common. Often we kind of memorize the words and we kind of go through the blessings that are on the page and we say them by rote. Shai, you actually sat and read the words. And I'm going to give this away a little bit, that before the service this morning, we brought out a Teudat Bar Mitzvah, right? A certificate for the Bar Mitzvah. And Shai started reading the words that were at the top, wondering, well, what does this mean? What is this particular word? And in fact, it throws me off every time too. Mitzvah, bar mitzvah, is spelled with a vav instead of with a vet. And Shai said, wait, that doesn't say mitzvah, which is, it probably shouldn't say mitzvah. It's kind of a strange spelling. It's possible to go through life completely having memorized things, knowing what the trope is, knowing what the particular ways are to go through things. And I will suggest to you that it's actually even easier to do that. In fact, many, many years ago, there were prayers that were added and added and added to our service, and they were added in such a way that the service got to the point where people would try to just drudge through it because it was so much, they would try to go through it quickly. And many, many years ago, members of our community said, hold on, I want to focus a little bit. I want to see what these words actually mean. I want to stop and not just say them by rote, but actually read them. Shai, I know that you go through life without just reciting the words. You will not say them if they don't mean anything. When we had our first meetings, your questions were the questions that rabbis dream of. And they were wondering about this particular experience, this particular moment. What is this? What is the meaning of this? You weren't just offering this experience and doing this experience by rote. You were reading it. You were in it. You were engaging in it. And you were asking questions. So here is my blessing for you. Keep reading. Don't ever get to the point where you think that you know it and you just fly right on through it, because that's the moment that it completely loses what it's there for. Our life is here to ask questions of it, to move through it with deep questions, with inquisitiveness, and to draw every last thing we can from it. So Shai, my blessing to you. Ask questions and never stop reading. Mazel tov.
Thank you.
Well, we have more blessings for you this morning, and so I'd like to call up your parents to offer their words of blessing. Shai, mazel tov.
Thank you.
All right, we've got a couple words that we wanted to say. Hope I'm not too offensive.
And I won't embarrass him by getting emotional. I try not to.
I don't want to say much because Shai says that this is his bar mitzvah, not ours. And I'm trying to avoid his wrath right now. Today is a day that our little Shai guy becomes big Shai guy. Or, as he refers to himself, the big Schlieben. He has worked very hard to be able to lead us in service today, and for that we are very proud. Shai is a man of contrasts. He's small and strong. He's sweet and spicy. He's full of energy, but can sit at his desk playing video games for 12 hours straight without moving. Shai is extremely inquisitive, but also thinks he knows everything. He loves having interesting intellectual conversations with his mom and brainless, stupid conversations with his dad. And sometimes both at the same time. But maybe most importantly, Shai loves being around family and close friends. And this is why today seems like such a special day. Because as crazy and isolating as these past few years have been for all of us, today is a day that the stars seem to have aligned for many of our close family and friends, to be able to come here to not only help us celebrate Shai and his accomplishments, but to also reconnect with each other. And for that, we are extremely appreciative.
We love you.
Thank you.
Mwah. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Shai, we have a blessing for you this morning, not just our words for you specifically today, but words that are passed down to you this morning from generations before, from that very same book. Generations and generations have offered this blessing to those who have celebrated big moments such as this. This morning, these words are for you. So I'd like to invite you to come up to the bima. We'll offer these words of the priestly blessing to you.
Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God's face be turned toward you in graciousness.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God always watch over you. May you be blessed with that greatest of gifts, that gift of peace. I invite us together to say, Amen. Well, as we often do in moments of celebration such as this, we give thanks. And so I invite us to offer the words of the Chehechianu all together. Come on over here. Oh yeah, Adi, come on up. Right here in the middle. Come on over. Anywhere you want, come on in.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen.
We continue our service with the words of Aleinu on page 282. Page 282, I'd like to invite us to please rise in body or in spirit.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ויאמר
Please be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those in our community who have died in recent days or in this season in years past. And so if you are joining us online on tilb.org, I'd like to invite you to share the names of those that you are thinking of this particular Shabbat in the chat at this time. Together, our hearts go out to those in our community who are observing Shiva and Shloshim, the 7 days and the 30 days after the death of someone near to them. And so, as we remember Rick Weber, our hearts go out to Susan Palitz and Mark, Michael, and Jeffrey. And as we remember Evelyn Friedman, our hearts go out to Stuart Friedman and Lauren, Aaron, Jacob, Nathan, Faith, and Zachary. And as we remember Abram Cohen, our hearts go out to Seth and Vicky Kogan, Emily, Michael, and Alexander. Additionally, we mark the yard site, the anniversary of the death of Bill Barrell, Leo Barth, Johanna Brady, Raymond Carl, Jack Chinsky, Vera Klein, Howard Davis, Joseph Dubois, Lloyd Ehrenberg, Tobe Gaster, Sam Gerber, Ethel Gould, Fanny Harris, Moses Hartman, Florence Hartman, Gerald Horwitz, Sophie Lazinars, Joel Levine, Esther Matthews, Sally McKibben, Sylvia Meltzer, Sherman Minkoff, Charles Parmett, Norman Pokris, Thelma Polsky, Mary Reese, Vinton Rosebrock, Henry Sassoon, Jerome Spatz, Geralda Tosta, and Louis Wolf. If there is anyone that you are thinking of this morning, and you'd like to share their name aloud, I'd like to invite you to do so as my eyes meet yours. I'd like to invite all of us to offer these traditional words of mourning together. They can be found on page 297, page 297. I'd like as well to invite all of us to rise, 294, thank you, 294. And I'd like as well to invite us to please rise in body or in spirit. Together. Yitkadal, v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach yirteh v'amlich malchuteh, v'chayechon v'yomechon, uv'chayeh dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'izman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach leolam olmei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbachata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim alinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, alinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, amen. Zichronam libracha, may the memories of those near to us always be a source of blessing. I invite us together to say, amen. We have a little bit of a nechemta, a positive and sweet note at the very end of that same blessing. And so I invite us to offer these words, Osei Shalom,
May we continue to find peace in this world. If you'd like to sing along with the words, they're on the end of that very same blessing.
Oh, say shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael, ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael, ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael, ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oh, say shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael, imru amen. Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom.
I'd like to invite Shai and his family back up to the podium here as we offer our blessings for Kiddush and Motzi. Our rituals are always meant to be somewhat of a reflection of the experience that we're having in any moment. The hope is that the sweetness of this cup is a reflection of the sweetness and joy that we all feel with you in this moment, Shai. Go ahead. Let's offer the blessing together.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen l'chaim.
How's it taste?
Oh, I liked it.
All right, that's
Oh,
good.
yes.
That's good. Was it wine or juice?
That was one.
Oh, all right. All right.
Wow.
Hey, all right. You know, yeah.
Yeah, I love Manischewitz, so.
Cantor loves Manischewitz.
Yeah.
All right, well, we continue offering a blessing for our challah. And the prayer has a bit of a peculiar set of words in it. It says, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, bread that rises from the earth. And we know full well that bread does not rise directly from the earth. That what rises from the earth is wheat, and there's a whole series of work that goes into bringing this bread to our celebration. So too is there a village that brings a celebration together such as this. It is both that we bless with these words. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, b'tei avon. Mazel tov, b'tei avon, and mazel tov, Shabbat shalom, everyone, mazel tov.
Mazel tov, Shabbat shalom.
Awesome.
It's all yours.
Shai, way to go, man. That was awesome.
Yes, you did
Yeah.
great.
I was really impressed.
What'd you think?
Really impressed. Did well. It was very good.
Adjective
And-
versus adverb.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
This is something that
Yeah. You know, you get a goodly. Yeah. Gooder.
My favorite word.
my game in hand for them was never terrible in the test. Not that one. It was like, because I kept hearing
You can't get that stuff from the book. It has to be like, yeah.
Anyway, you did really well.
Yes.
Great job.
You done good.
Done good.
Done good.
Yes. Enjoy,
Thank you for
relax.
everything. This is
and-
terrific.
Yeah,
Thank
you can
so
breathe a
much.
little bit now, too.
Right? Dinner, friends, all that.
Enjoy the rest of your day. You Mazel Tov. You did fantastic. I'm very proud of you.
Are we going to see you tomorrow? Oh, Sunday. You're going to get a break.
We have a brunch.
Good.
We have a
So
brunch
enjoy.
day.
That's like the whole thing is like you do a whole bunch of work coming up to this, and then you get to like take a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking. So Mazel Tov, and Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you
One of
very
those
much for
questions.
everything.
You have to promise me something, which is I teach 10th grade. You got to be my 10th grade class.
Yeah.